A review by Finn Clark from the 2nd of the 4th, 07. I don't really like Marc Platt's work. He's literate, imaginative, and sophisticated, but his novels can barely be said to be plotted at all. My reactions to them range from underwhelmed to burn this atrocity. However, I love Ghostlight. The crucial difference is that it has a story. It may be convoluted, confusing, and not particularly well communicated, but much of that is due to trying to do too much in 3 episodes. That's not Marc Platt's fault. Andrew Cartmel was the script editor. What's more, the story is so interesting that for me this flaw becomes a virtue. This is undoubtedly the most challenging Doctor Who television story we'll ever see. These days we're used to episodes that are trying to cram too much into their allotted time, but even Russell T Davies hasn't attempted anything like this. 21st century Doctor Who's more interested in heart than head. Anything difficult gets squished like a cockroach. I certainly don't expect ever again to see anything that expects the viewer to work this damn hard, both in terms of reflecting on the themes and just plain figuring out the plot. Let's face it, most Doctor Who stories cater for morons. That's fine, that's the nature of television. However, this story expects me to think. I admire that. Brains like spiral staircases. That's Ghostlight. I love its convoluted strangeness, which suggests that Marc Platt's brain doesn't work like anyone else's. It's fascinating in a way that one rarely sees. Doctor Who can do themes and character moments, and can even be thought-provoking, but no other story has this much texture and intricacy. New Who has had strongly developed themes, especially in Russell T Davies scripts, but Season 26, especially Ghostlight and Survival, remains in a class of its own. Here, everyone and everything exists in relation to Platt's theme of evolution, including the TARDIS crew. Light can't change. Josiah is evolving and control is degenerating, but this apparent status quo can itself change. Even the Victorian setting is perfect, with its stuffed animals and stuffy academics. The Reverend Ernest Matthews sees himself as the pinnacle of evolution, except that he'd call even that description insulting. He's a true Victorian Englishman, but his worldview is thrown into perspective by Ace and Nimrod. There are also lots of dead things, moths in glass cases, stuffed birds, aborted things in jars, like a morgue. Normally in evolution, the dead are left behind as their changed descendants survive, but in Gabriel Chase, the dead linger. Josiah has his husks in the basement. There's also Nimrod. Killing something here takes imagination, which is incidentally another thing I love about this story. Ew. So there's plenty of brain food. There are the themes plus the whole mystery of what's going on in Gabriel Chase and what everyone's trying to do. However, I could say as much about Lungbarrow and Time's Crucible, about which I'm much less enthusiastic. What Ghostlight has is a story. The plot advances. It's going somewhere. Its characters do things. And at its heart is McCoy's Doctor at his scariest, manipulating the entire cast and doing something unspeakably horrible to Ace. It's a different kind of scary from Hartnell's, but even Hartnell didn't hit these kind of notes. And in any case, he was only bad news at the start of his reign. Only twice in the Doctor's life was he more than just the hero. Seasons 1 and 26, with the cornerstone of the latter being Ghostlight. It's like an entire story on the level of the Curse of Fenric's Kill Her. He lies to Ace. He releases light. He's responsible for some terrible things and people die as a direct result of his actions. Although in fairness, the end result of resolving the situation and neutralizing light was probably worth it. Admittedly, in Part 3, Light rampages through the cast, leaving a trail of creatively murdered corpses, but the Doctor quickly deals with him. One hates to think what might have happened had the escape happened under less controlled circumstances. Everyone's good, though. It's a heavyweight cast, but Marc Platt also writes interesting parts. No waiting for the axe to fall, victims or wishy-washy rebels. Mrs. Pritchard and Gwendoline are a bizarre combination of genuine pathos and sadism in sending people to Java. Inspector Mackenzie is a laugh, Redvers Van Cooper is fascinating, Nimrod is lovely. As everyone knows, the storytelling can be murky. It all makes sense underneath, but you'll be doing well if you catch all the explanations on first viewing. There's some disconnection in the cellar scenes, while in addition it's never clear what everyone's talking about in episode 2 with Light. We get the impression of something hugely powerful, but with 3 sets of ill-defined entities down in the cellar, Control, Light and the Husks. The details hardly leap out with great clarity even on repeat viewings. However, one understands enough to be scared, which is the main thing. For me, the story goes steadily downhill, but not in a big way. Part 1 is my favourite and Part 3 my least favourite. That episode is Cool Murders, but unfortunately also the job of resolving the plot. That's never been Platt's specialty. Nevertheless, this story remains rich and thought-provoking right up to the conclusion of the Doctor and Ace left alone in a house of the dead. The only survivors disappeared in a stone spaceship. Even on a production level, this is one of the most impressive Doctor Who stories. The BBC were always at their best of costume drama, and here we have a luscious Victorian pseudo-historical packed wall-to-wall of quality actors. This story is special. It's unique in Doctor Who in 2 different ways. Its richness and complexity and its characterization of the Doctor. It's not perfect, but its imperfections are themselves something to be treasured. I'm proud to be a fan of a series that could produce this story. We'll never get anything else like it, but at least we'll always have Ghostlight.